Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Curtis, and today I'm going to do a review for Sistas Season 9, Episode 15. So, the episode started where the last one ended. Remember, Dr. Vaughn and Andy, it was getting hot, it was getting heavy, they started kissing, and then Andy's mom walks into the room, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" So, of course, they separate. She's like, "Mom, what are you doing here?" She's like, "I'm actually here to save your career, obviously, because you're kissing this random man inside of your conference room at your job. Like, what is wrong with you?" Dr. Vaughn turns to Andy's mom, which her name is Valerie, by the way, and he says, "You know what? I do apologize. I'm so sorry." She said, "You can say that story for your Lord and Savior." And I was just like, she is so extra. Dr. Vaughn can tell that this situation is getting ready to be a little more awkward than it already is, so he tries to excuse himself. But Valerie was like, "Hold on, wait a minute. Where are you going? I didn't even get your name." He says, "My name is Dr. Vaughn." And then Andy says, "Dr. Vaughn is the person that saved Karen's life and also helped deliver one of her babies." And so she's like, "Oh, okay. Well, let me tell you something. So Karen, she's like a daughter to me. So the fact that you saved her life and also helped deliver one of her babies, I want to thank you for that." He says, "Of course, there's no problem at all. But when it comes to my name, you do not have to call me Dr. Vaughn. You can call me Reginald. You can call me Reggie. You do not have to call me Dr. Vaughn." She was like, "No, you earned the title of doctor, so I'm going to call you Dr. Vaughn." He doesn't want to argue with her, so he's just like, "Okay." And then she says, "You know what? I'm actually surprised that my daughter is dealing with you." And he was like, "Why?" And she was like, "Because she normally deals with hedge fund crooks and politicians, so the fact that she's with the daughter, I'm really surprised." And then they have this super awkward laugh, and so Andy's just like, "Mom, what are you doing?" She was like, "I'm just joking, I'm just trying to make jokes." So Andy's just like, "Why are you here?" Valerie tells her that she actually has some business that she has to attend to in Atlanta, so that's why she came. But I mean, is that a problem? And she's like, "No, it's not a problem. It's just that I wasn't expecting you to come." And Valerie was like, "Well, if you would have picked up your phone every single time I called you, you would have known that I was coming." She was like, "I'm busy." She was like, "You're not that damn busy." Dr. Vaughn is just like, "Okay, this is just a little too awkward. You know, I need to leave." So he is able to kind of get his way out of there. And I know once he left the room, he was like, "Thank God." Now, when it comes to Andy and Valerie, they continue the conversation, and it actually gets a little deeper now that Dr. Vaughn is out of the room. And she says that she wants Andy to explain herself. She's like, "Explain myself? I'm not sure if you noticed or not, but I'm a grown ass woman." She says, "Yes, and I'm growner, and you're not too old to be set straight. Now explain yourself." Andy is just like, "Fine." Dr. Vaughn came to the office because he and I we were working on the case together. One thing led to another. We started kissing, and then next thing you know, you walked into the room, and that's everything. Valor was just like, "So that's it? That's everything that you need to tell me?" Because the last thing that I heard, you were supposed to be marrying a politician. Now all of a sudden I see you inside of the conference room kissing a random man. And then also, since we are talking about things, let's talk about the fact that people at the church are coming up to me asking me if you're okay. And I'm just like, "Why the hell would you not be okay?" And she's like, "Well, I plan to tell you." She's like, "You plan to tell me what?" And she's like, "Well, what do you know already?" She said, "Girl, I paid too much money for you to go to law school for you to try to use it on me. Spill the tea." Andy tells her that she did plan to marry a politician, but unfortunately did not work out. Valerie's just like, and what about that criminal you were planning to marry?" She said, "That is irrelevant. That doesn't even matter because we didn't even get married, so don't even bring that up." Valerie was like, "Okay, you don't want to talk about that? Okay, well, let's have a conversation about the fact that you were kidnapped and almost killed because you were having an affair." And Andy was just like, "How do you know this information?" She said, "Because news travels, boo. I was going to find out that information, but the question I have to you is, why is it that I had to find out this information from other people when you are my daughter and you have my number? Like, why didn't you tell me?" She tells Andy that she doesn't know what she would have done if something would have happened to her. And then she starts being like super extra and dramatic, talk about she would have jumped off of a bridge. And Andy's just like, "Girl, cut the theatrics. Why are you here?" Unfortunately, we did not get a response in that scene, but we will get it a little bit later. But let's go over to Karen's house. So we see Karen and Aaron, they are laying down on the couch, and they're having a conversation about them moving. And Karen says, "You know what, Aaron, I want you to be real with me. How do you truly feel about us moving out of the city?" And he says, "You know what, I'm fine with it. I'm good with it. I think it will be a good idea." While the two of them are having a conversation, Pam calls. And did you all hear Aaron like, "Well, why is she calling?" I'm like, "Damn, bro, do you have beef with her or something? Like, what's going on, man?" But Pam, she does call, and she's like, "Hey, I just want to check on you." Karen said, "I'm good." She's like, "How's the shop?" And she's like, "Well, some of the clients are mad." And Karen's like, "Why are they mad?" And she was like, "Well, some of the clients, they are upset because they want to schedule an appointment with you. I told them that you were on maternity leave, but they really want you to come back." So Karen's like, "You know what, Pam? You and I, we need to have a conversation. We need to talk about something important." And so Pam's like, "Okay, that's fine." She was like, "Okay, I'll talk to you later." She's like, "Okay, bye." We then hear a knock on the door, and it's Karen's mom, Lisa. And so she comes in, and Karen is just like, you know what, there's something I need to tell you. And so Erin starts to smile. She starts to smile. Miss Lisa is like, what the hell is going on? So Erin is like, you know what? I'm going to allow you two to talk. I'm going to take Faith in the room. We're going to have daddy and daughter time. And then you two can have your time to talk about everything that's going on. And so Erin does leave. And then Karen does sit her mom down. And she's like, you know what? When it comes to me and Erin, we have decided that we are going to move out of Atlanta. And her mom was like, what? She was like, yeah, we're going to move out of Atlanta. Miss Lisa is like, are you sure you want to move to a different city? You sure you don't want to just move to a new apartment? Maybe move down the street? Possibly take a vacation to get your mind off of things? And she's like, no, I cannot do that. She was like, why not? She was like, because regardless if I move down the street, move into another apartment somewhere else in the city, I'm still going to think about everything that has happened here, including the death of my baby. Like, I cannot be in the city anymore, Mom. Please just be here for me. Trust me. It does take Miss Lisa some time to say that she gives her blessing, but you can tell that she really wasn't with it and that she was sad about it. But she can tell that her daughter was really excited about, leaving the city. And then also the fact that she experienced so much trauma when it comes to her other baby that didn't make it. She knows that she needs a fresh start, so she just has to put her hands up and be like, you know what? Do what you need to do. I'll be here for you every step of the way. There were two quick scenes after this, so you all know how I do. I grouped them together, make it easier to talk about. So in the first scene, Officer Green, he flirts with Danny, gives Danny his phone number. She tells him that she has a man. He said, I don't give a fuck about him. I said, okay, well, make sure you have that same energy when you run into Tony. In the second scene, Sabrina, Maurice, they have a conversation about Dylan and Rock. And I'll be honest with you all, I kind of tuned this conversation out because it's basically the same conversation that they've been having in the previous episodes. So I'm just going to skip ahead, okay? After this, we see Fatima. She's inside of her office. She's trying to get some work done, but Hayden actually rushes in and kind of interrupts her. And he asks her, why did she drop Chaz without consulting him? She was like, consulting you? He was like, yes, why do you consult me? She was like, I do not need to consult you when it comes to Chaz. He was like, why not? She was like, because I'm the person who brought him into the fold. Like, I do not need permission to drop somebody that I brought to the firm. Hayden is just like, that's not how it works. She was like, that is how it works. He said, no, that's not how it works. She was just like, look, when it comes to Chaz, he is a liability, so I did everybody a big favor. And so Hayden's like, wait, a liability? Let me try to put this together. So when it comes to Chaz, if he's a liability, that means that he must have tried to fuck you, right? She was like, oh my God. He said, yeah, so Chaz tried to fuck you. Zach found out about it. All hell was getting ready to break loose, so you dropped him, right? She attempts to dismiss him, but he's like, no, 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 no. You cannot dismiss me when I'm right. And then he goes on to say, listen, I need you to remember that I am the real lawyer in this situation. Yes, you may have brought Chaz on, but I am the lawyer. You are the paralegal. So therefore, we need to work together. Like, you cannot be making decisions without me. We have to basically be partners. And so she's like, okay, partner, well, can I get back to work, please? Hayden tells her that he is not going to leave until she tells him her backup plan. So she's like, okay, I'll tell you my backup plan, but I just need you to keep an open mind. He's like, when do I not have an open mind? She tells him that she feels like they need to focus less on the male athletes and focus more on the women. Hayden is like, why will we do that? There is a big difference between the amount that women make and men make. Like, why will we leave all of that money on the table? And she's like, well, when it comes to the pay gap, it is closing slowly but surely. And then also when it comes to male athletes, if you notice, they are involved in a lot of scandals. They have to pay out a lot of money. That doesn't happen with women. So therefore, we can retain more business and retain more money. And Hayden's just like, okay, that seems like a good idea. I'll look into it. All right, y'all. So we are back with Andy and Valerie. And remember, Andy told her to cut the theatrics and just tell her why she's there. Valerie's just like, do I really need a reason? I heard all of this stuff about you, so I just came to see what was going on. Andy was like, you just care about what the church members say. And she was like, okay, and then Andy just laughs because she was like, this lady is crazy. It's at this time that Valerie actually reaches her hand out to Andy and she says, you know what, I want to ask you a real question. Are you okay? Andy was like, yeah, I'm fine. She's like, okay, good, because you know your aunt that lives 30 minutes outside of the city? Yeah, I need you to take me over there. She was like, oh, I see. So you did not actually come to see me, you came to see my aunt. She was like, no, I came to see you, but when it comes to my time being here, I would much rather stay over her house than yours because I can only imagine the sinful things that have happened at your crib. I said, that's crazy. Andy's like, you know what? I actually have a better idea. How about I get the firm's car service to take you over there? She said, car service? Why would I get a car service when I have you? She was like, because I'm busy. She's like, oh, so you are too busy for me, but you weren't too busy for Dr. Vaughn? She tells Andy that she needs to delegate her time a little bit better. And she's like, excuse me, you don't know what I do and what I do not do. And she said, listen to me. You are supposed to be in the process of becoming a partner. So therefore you need to be treated like a partner. You should not be doing all of this work. Like, what about that girl? What's her name? The friend that you have that's working for you? Like, why can't she do all of this? What is her name? She was like, Fatima. She was like, okay, Fatima, why can't she do all of this work for you? She was like, well, Fatima is currently busy doing projects and other things right now. And she's like, well, when it comes to those projects, are those projects that you assigned to her? And she was like, yes and no. She was like, okay, so that means no, right? She tells Andy that she needs to fire Fatima and hire somebody that can do the job. And I was just like, God damn, mama, calm down. And so as she is saying this, Andy's phone ding. And I know she was like, thank God. She was like, you know what? Something just popped up. It's an emergency. I want to take you to the receptionist area so they can get a car service for you. And she's like, you know what? Fine. All right, y'all. So there was a quick scene after this. So you all remember in the last episode, Zach received a notification that he got $100,000. And I was just like, where did he get this money from? Like, this seems so random. And so Fatima actually gets home and he tells her that he got that $100,000. And she was like, is that real? Is it legit? He was like, yeah, I called the bank and they said it was supposed to come to me. And she was like, well, who did it come from? He was like, I'm still trying to verify that information. He also tells her that while he was at the gym, because that's where he received the notification, Mr. Keys came up to him and told him that he knows his father. And so she was just like, but you don't even know your father. He was like, yeah, but he said that he knew my father. They were best friends. And he actually wants to have dinner and I want you to come. And she was like, Zach, I'm not really sure about that. Like, I do not want you to get hurt. He was like, oh, look at you trying to protect me. She was like, I'm not really sure. It does take some time, but he does eventually convince her to go to dinner with Mr. Keys. And then the two of them fuck. In the next scene, we see Fatima. She's walking through the office and she's all happy. She's smiling. She's waving at everybody. So Zach clearly put it down because she's in a really good mood. And so as she is walking in, Valerie actually sees her. So she's like, hey, Fatima. She's like, hey, how are you? She was like, you may not know me, but I'm actually Andy's mom. She's like, oh, hey, how are you? Do you need me to get Andy? She's like, no, I actually already spoke to Andy. I'm actually just waiting for a car service. So she's like, okay, well, if you need something, just let me know. Valerie was like, why would I let you know if I need something when you clearly have your hands full with other things? And Fatima was like, excuse me? She was like, yeah, I spoke to Andy and she told me that she is stressed out. She doesn't know if she's going here, she's going there because she doesn't have any help. Like, what are you doing? Fatima's like, well, I mean, it's been real busy at the office. And then Valerie was like, you know what, can I give you some advice? And then she steps up to Fatima. Fatima's like, the fuck are you doing? And she's like, I'm just going to give you some advice real quick. Step it up or my daughter's going to fire you. And Fatima's like, is that what Andy said? She's like, it doesn't matter. And so Fatima's like, okay, I don't have time for this. So she tries to walk away, but she's like, you know, I have one more thing. So Fatima steps back and she's like, what do you want? And she's like, I have a question about Dr. Vaughn. And she was like, well, I mean, when it comes to Dr. Vaughn, he saved Karen's life, helped deliver the baby. She's like, I know all that. I want to know about Dr. Vaughn and Andy's relationship, so spill the tea. After this, we see Tony. He is very frustrated because it appears that he bet on a team or bet on a person, and unfortunately, it didn't work out the way he thought it would, and so he ended up losing some money. And at this time, we actually see Danny actually walk in, and so when she walks into the apartment, he tells her, you know what, when it comes to my birthday, the kids are going to come, and she's like, of course, I expected that. But he was like, well, I want them to actually stay here with us, and she was like, what? He was like, yeah, I want them to stay with us. And she was like, we don't have any room. He was like, we do have room. She was like, where? And so as she is kind of looking around, she notices that there is a bottle of lube on the table. And she's like, have you been jacking off? He was like, no, I haven't been jacking off. She was like, so why do you have this bottle? And he was like, well, I didn't really want to say anything, but the last time that we had sex, actually, it was kind of dry. She was like, excuse me? He was like, yeah, you were kind of dry, so I got some lubrication because clearly you were not producing enough natural lubrication. So, of course, this caused her to get upset. She got mad. She started talking shit. And then she's like, you know what? I don't have time for this. I'm going to leave. And so she does put her shoes back on and she's going to leave. But before she does, she takes an envelope out of her pocket and it has money in it. He's like, what is that? She was like, that's the cash I do not want to carry around. And then she ends up leaving. And I was just like, I'm not sure you want to leave that money there with him. I think he's becoming an addict. All right, so let's go back to Fatima for a second. So we see Fatima. She's back in her office. She calls Zach. Zach believes that she's calling him to talk about the little session that they had before she went back to work. But she's like, no, I need to talk to you about Andy. So he's like, well, what happened? And she was like, Andy's mom approached me and told me that Andy was going to fire me. He was like, that doesn't sound like Andy. And then she was like, and she asked me about the relationship that Dr. Vaughn and Andy had. So Zach was like, well, I mean, what did you tell her? She was like, I didn't say shit. Like, I wouldn't say anything. I still had her back. Fatima's just like, you know what, when it comes to Andy, she has been acting weird ever since that night that we went to the hospital. Like, ever since the blackout when I took Karen to the hospital, she has been acting real strange. And so Zach was like, oh shit. And then she's like, what? He was like, okay, there's something I need to tell you. She was like, what? He was like, I need you to promise that you will not get mad. She was like, Zach, what is it? He said, promise me that you will not get mad. She was like, Zach, tell me what the fuck happened. He was like, okay, look, that night, during the blackout, I was having a hard time charging my phone, so I ended up putting my phone into Andy's room. Andy ended up leaving the room and she took a shower. I went into the room to get my phone, and as I went into the room to get my phone, she was coming out of the shower and I saw her naked. But Tim was like, what the fuck you mean you saw her naked? He was like, listen, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't anything. Like I said, I was just going to get my phone. I did not know that she was coming out of a shower. Nothing happened, I promise you. And she's like, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that you saw Andy naked? You did not tell me anything? He was like, I planned to tell you. She was like, when? He was like, well, I mean, there were times where I thought about it, but I just felt like it wasn't the right time to say anything. And she was like, so you're telling me that nothing happened? He said, nothing happened, I promise you. She was like, so why didn't you tell me? He said, once again, I just could not find the time to tell you. Fatima was like, mm-hmm. He was like, I just simply forgot to tell you, Fatima. She was like, no, you hid it from me. He was like, how can you say I hid it from you when I'm telling you right now? I just forgot. She was like, you know what? I really do not like the fact that neither one of you told me this information, but that's okay because you and I, we're going to have a conversation later. And when it comes to Andy, I'm about to go find her and I'm going to have a conversation with her right now. I'll talk to you later. And then Zach was like, oh Lord, she's going to kill that girl. After this, we see Andy, we see Danny, we see Sabrina. They're waiting on Karen. And I forgot to mention this a little bit earlier. I do apologize, but Karen said that she wanted to have a sister circle meeting. And so that's why they are, meeting at this restaurant. And so Karen, she does come in and she looks great. She looks wonderful. And she lets us know, like, hey, I have an important announcement. And she's getting ready to say it, but then Fatima walks in and she says, hey, I do not mean to interrupt you, but I need to have a conversation with Andy. Andy's like, well, can we not just wait until after Karen says what she has to say? She said, no, we can't. I'll be in the bar. I'll be waiting for you. I said, oh, shit. And that was the end of the episode. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you could, please like, comment, share, subscribe. That would be great. Hope you all have a great rest of your night and a great weekend. Take care.